Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt from Divination Counseling Service, here today to present gambling using diurnal charts. Now, I'm going to take an opportunity here to not only look at the diurnal in terms of gambling, and I'm going to put out a few points and pointers with regards to those people who really want to start trying this particular technique. I am going to be using a chart of someone I know who won money on the Super Bowl, February 13th. Now, I thought this would be a good opportunity not just to look at that chart, but the chart that I'm working with does not have an exact time. We have a guesstimate of time, which ironically a lot of people have. And the reason why I say that is because even if you were noted a fairly decent time on your birth certificates, there have been situations in hospitals where they kind of do them all at the same time. So they might be off for a few minutes, particularly if it's a day where a lot of babies were born. I know because when I had my child, I was the person that told them what time to put down because I watched and I was aware of the fact that, and I'm not sure that this is true in every country because I've seen some really good times come out of other countries. But in our country, there's actually a such thing as birth certificates that don't even have a time on them. And not so much for the younger people, but really for people in my age group. I actually paid to have my chart rectified because there was no real way to get a good time. So because of that, I am going to use this diurnal to help me pinpoint this time. And I'm going to do it with you. So we're going to be looking at that. So before I begin this, what I'm going to call, hopefully it won't take us too long, but it's going to be process to look at both the charts in terms of the accuracy of its time, that's the natal chart, but also then to use the diurnal. I'm looking at this in hindsight, which I think sometimes it's the best way to learn astrology. So with that said, I want to say thank you for watching the video. I want to thank all of the people who subscribe to my channel, who've been commenting and really supporting this channel. Thank you guys. If you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll consider becoming one. But in the meantime, if you would, please like, share, comment. Help us to build this channel. So with that said, I'm going to be pulling up birth data for both charts, only to show you the difference in 15 minutes as it relates to the diurnal. So I want to first start with the fact that I don't have a good time, okay? And I can't do it for my chart because I didn't win any money and I'm not a very good gambler. I could show you the diurnal in relationship to my work and what's been happening with my work, but I couldn't really show you in terms of gambling. I'm a horrible gambler. As a matter of fact, when it came to this whole situation that my significant other was taking advantage of, it had something to do with spread. I don't know anything about spreads. I actually did a lot of astrology on the Super Bowl. I usually do, but I'm totally lost on spread. I just don't get any of it. So bear with me on that, especially those of you who are really good gamblers like he is. I know he rolls his eyes at me a lot. I'm really not good at this. And it's funny because I've been an astrologer almost my whole life and I never thought of it as something I could gamble and earn money at. But I'm not motivated by money. You don't need to be a really good astrologer to figure that out in my chart. So with that said, I'm going to jump over and we're going to pull up the charts. So what we're looking at is one of the two charts that I'm going to be working with. And it's only a difference of 15 minutes. And I think that's why I really want to show it, because I want to show how differently this chart is when you just change it by 15 minutes, particularly the diurnal, not so much the chart itself. A couple of things I want to point out. So when you're looking at a diurnal chart, okay, so the things we want to pay attention to, even though this is considered the natal chart, one of the things that we're going to be looking at. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not. This is a diurnal. I am so out of it. Okay, so this is a diurnal. And I want to show a couple of really interesting things in this chart. First of all, look at the Venus and Mars conjunction in the 12th, but they don't seem to affect the ascendant. They're a little bit far away. Now, not really, because you can go 10 degrees. And if I were to go 10 degrees, they both do work. So I want to take that back. But here's another thing I want to point out. Look down here at the changing of the guard here. We have an 8-degree cusp of the second house, but look what happened at 10 degrees. Okay, so in other words, Jupiter just crossed over into the second house by 2 degrees. Now, according to Sophia Mason, the person that wrote the book, okay, that one of the things that you want to do is you want to purchase or you want to set yourself up when the natal or transiting planets trine the ascendant. Okay, now there's no trine. There's no trine. Okay, so, you know, to the planet trines the ascendant, which it doesn't. That there would be Uranus on the 5th house. Okay, so here we go with no. Okay, so he won. Okay, but I want to go through this because there's a lot of stuff he does have. Okay, so one of the things that, you know, when you just read her plans, okay, and I'm just going to read off a few things here, that it's best when the natal or transiting planets trine the ascendant. Okay, so in this particular case, his and this is there's the ascendant that they're supposed to trine is this diurnal. Okay, now I don't, in this particular case, if we're looking for things to trine this particular Saturn ruled ascendant, by the way, this is Saturn, then, you know, you really look at what's close, like, you know, Pluto's coming up, and that would be something that if you were giving them a reading, you might want to discuss that. Look at right under Pluto is Mercury. Okay, now this person has an either 16-degree Taurus rising, or they have a 21 degree, remember, I'm not going that far, okay, or a 20, I think it's 21 degree, I did write it down, ascendant. So we're only talking about a few minutes, but a few minutes will change all of this. And I put up, because I wasn't sure how the programs were going to work, the best diurnal, okay, and I want to show you why. One of the things that it talks about is that you could purchase tickets or play races at the time when the transiting moon conjuncts either the 2nd or the 8th house. We don't have that. This particular moon on the diurnal is in Cancer. It's always going to be very close to his descendant. Okay, so we don't have the moon thing. Okay, so I'm going through this because I want to, this is a hindsight chart. So it says to me, okay, there's potentials when you look at the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, or the 9th house cusps as they conjunct the diurnal 2nd or 8th house. Now, I know it sounds really complicated, but think of it this way, guys. Let's go back to basic astrology. When you have anything on the 5th, it's always good for gambling. They're using the 9th because the 9th could even be bigger money, which is really interesting when you look at it. You've got the 8th house, which is other people's money, and you've got the 2nd house, which is your money. So what this astrologer has done is gone through all of the money houses, so to speak. And she really works from that point. And she talks about how you want to these cusps, and how you want to trine them. Okay. And in our case, this diurnal does not give us a whole lot of that. Okay. But I do like this. On this one, we have the 9th house, okay, which, just bear with me for a minute, okay, which does have Zeus, not in trine, but in square to that ascendant, which I thought was really interesting. But, and this is a big but, here we're dealing with somebody whose chart is ruled by Venus. I don't care which chart you use, it's ruled by Venus. He also has Mercury right off the ascendant. He also has a Venus trine Mars, very strong, okay? And I believe Venus is coming in, it is actually, from the 12th house. So these are things I'm just telling you. I could go back and show you the chart, but for the purpose of expediting matters, I wanted you to know that. And the reason why I wanted you to know that was because look at his 5th and 9th house cusps. Okay, so here we go with the 5th house cusp, which is 9 degrees. Make a note of that. Okay, this is somebody who has a 9-degree Arian Jupiter. Okay, Jupiter's making a sextile to exact, but it's, do you see this whole thing is not exactly the way she said? I'd say it's a good aspect. I'd say it's smack on the money. But it just was really interesting. Venus for this person, and I'll double check this. Okay, so his transiting Venus is now in Capricorn. Look at this. Okay, look at this. Venus, Mars conjunction in the 12th. This is the diurnal. Okay, and he has Jupiter right inside the 2nd house. He has a trine, not a trine, a sextile to his own Jupiter. And he has this really interesting Venus as the ruler of his 9th house. I know, and you're all thinking to yourself, now how am I supposed to figure this out? One of the suggestions I'm going to make just from this chart is, because of times being so off a little bit, especially if you're a United States citizen, if you were born here in this country. Now, not if you're younger. Everything got better but if you're older, okay? Okay, so rules can happen for winning more than 20 times in a month. Because anytime you get trines to the 2nd house, to the 8th house, and by the way, this Pisces, Virgo, these are also interesting points on here when applied to his chart. I may have to do that. Mercury rules in his chart the 2nd house. Okay, natally, Mercury rules the 2nd house. Mercury also sits off of the ascendant. Okay, so this is actually somebody who is pretty lucky. Yes, who has a good 5th house, you know, and I knew he'd win sometime because he plays tickets, he plays. And I probably should have done it, but I can't remember exactly which Sunday it was, but one Sunday he won a bunch of tickets. So what I'm going to do is maybe not just do one video on gambling, since I live with somebody who gambles. He's not a big league gambler. I met a lot of those growing up through my parents. I met them through astrology because there are astrologers that do that. But he's a small timer. but he's lucky. And he wins lottery tickets, and he wins tickets that you play at clubs. So I just thought it was really good. The other things that she talks about are to look for transiting Pluto. Look at this, transiting Pluto is right there, okay? So it's right off the ascendant. It's 4 degrees off the ascendant. Then you want to look at transiting Jupiter. Look where the heck it is, okay? You want to look at transiting Uranus, which is coming to the IC, because remember, when you're talking angles, you can go wider. Also realize that this chart might be in effect for a while, okay, for a couple of weeks at the very least. As a matter of fact, I've been talking to him about that. You want to look at the sun and the moon. Now, here's something that's really funny. The story of the whole gambling scene is in this chart. He was gambling almost in a private way with 2 other women, ironically. And they were going by the bookies. I don't know anything about that, so it's way over my head. But it was sort of, I won't say a pressure campaign, but I thought that was really interesting that was there. They decided not to go with the bookie, but to do it within themselves. And so I thought that was really funny. So the moon was significant in his case. It is on a dial right at the ascendant. Now, when I show you the other chart, it really is on the descendant. Okay, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to show you the 2 diurnals first. I hope this doesn't get too confusing. Okay, a lucky day for anybody is transiting, so it's either transiting or natal planets that trine the diurnal ascendant from the 5th or the 9th house. Now, we got squares, okay, which I thought was really interesting. So this is a square. With the 5th house, I think we're looking at I think it makes let's just put it this way. It's really not. It's not a trine. Okay. The trines in this case would probably be more related to these 8-degree things. Now, do remember that I told you about the 9 degrees of Jupiter. Okay. It happens to be in Aries. Now, if his 9 degrees of Jupiter, Aries is not only on the 9th house, it's opposite. Okay. But look at the 8 degrees and the 8 degrees. Okay. So if it's in Aries, it's only matching up by degrees. So this is where I want to tell you that as a modern day astrologer, I do not think Sophia Mason is running along the same lines as me. And you'll say, well, why would you say that? And I would say, because she uses part of fortune and she uses things that are very traditional. I don't. I am somebody who's going to utilize my asteroids. Like, for example, I really loved this. It was dependent. The whole thing was dependent. Look at that, right on the cusp, right on the cusp. The whole thing was dependent on other people. Okay. The whole thing. All right. So it's really interesting because this was just kind of a fluke thing. This bet really was going to do the Sunday before, and I probably should have, and I really should still consider looking at that. But I really wanted to show you this because he really did win, okay? And this one didn't meet all the rule criteria, all right? It met some of it, but not all of it. I like the fact that, you know, one of the things we talk about a lot in astrology, and this is more of a modern way of looking at astrology, is what we call the golden triangle. So in here, she says it has to be a trine. A transiting trine to the ascendant, 5th, 9th house. She really puts, and she always says exact orbs yet the duh, okay? Well, exact orbs are going to be tough because timing is off. And I'm telling you that 15 degrees when you're talking diurnals is huge, okay? And I'm going to show you that in a minute. the the I love the way she goes. An even better day for transiting or natal planets trining the diurnal ascendant is from either the 8th or the 9th, but even for more money, an excellent time for large sums of money is when the natal or transiting ruler of natal or diurnal is in the 2nd or the 8th house. Now, what's really interesting is Venus rules his chart. It's actually in the 12th house. It wasn't a large sum of money. It was just a couple $100, but it was money. Okay. And even when he won the Sunday before that, it was like that. But this is interesting because diurnals are supposed to last about a month, even though you're doing them for a day. And I can honestly attest to you, I opened the tickets for him. He bought them, but I help open. His hands go. A lot of arthritis. So basically, I like to help him out with those things. Plus, it's fun. And it's really fun to open the winners. And we won. So he's really good. Okay. So he is somebody who is ruled by Venus. And I often wonder if that's not why he is really successful at gambling. Okay. And not big time stuff, just small time stuff, just like the stuff that people pass time with. So I just want to make a few notes of a few things. I'm actually going to look at the other diurnals. So these are not the natal charts. Okay. I want to show you the difference in how these diurnals can work. So I pulled up the other diurnal chart and look, 23 degrees to a presently 19 degrees. Okay. And one of the things that and look at this, 17 now is smack almost right on it. Okay. So we're talking about 2 degrees. So now we're getting like, but look at this, 17 degrees, 17 degrees, and 17 degrees. These were good friends, these women. They were really good friends. And it was dependent on them because I don't think he would have done it otherwise, which I thought was interesting. Jupiter is still in, but now we're talking about a 3 degree, okay? And so everything is a little different. But look at this. Uranus rules of the chart, and Uranus right on the cusp, but of the 4th. So not of the 5th, as she says. So this is where I mean by she must be working with absolutely perfect charts. And this is something I really wanted to stress on this video. We are not all going to have perfect charts. And for those of you who've been trying to work with this, you might find that your birth time is off, but that off can shift it a degree or two. It's not a lot, but it means that exact orbs might not work. So please understand what I'm saying so that you can work accordingly. Okay. What's interesting is if you go back to his natal chart, that 15 minutes rather, doesn't really mean anything. His Pluto is still in Aries. His Jupiter is still. So you see where I'm going. It's sort of like, well, it's not going to change a lot, but it sort of throws out the window the exact degree concept. And it comes down to, we don't all have perfect birth times. And some people don't know their birth times at all. And then I would suggest working with an astrologer, preferably somebody who was an asteroid astrologer, but there are programs. I actually own a program. Oh gosh, I can't even think of who I bought it from. But anyway, an older astrologer came up with this program, and you put the person through a series of basically questions and highlights, and then it kind of does the math, and it kind of gives you a guesstimate. I sort of did that with his, but again, I'm pinpointing it within 15 minutes, and look how different these charts are. So it's going to be hard now as I go around, and I'm now looking at these cusp points are really, really important when you start looking at this 3 degrees of Pisces, 3 degrees of Virgo, and then you have to look at 6 degrees of Gemini, and then you have to look at 13 degrees of Libra. Now, to 18 degrees Libra, but you can see that that 5 degrees is going to make a huge difference in terms of how close these are. So one of the things that I'm going to suggest as an astrologer is maybe being a little bit more open-minded with regards to your orbs. And I know that sounds wow coming from an astrologer, okay? So, and this is something I would really encourage people to play with before you start pushing for the larger sums on gambling. This guy has a Venus rising, okay? He is pretty lucky, all right? Some people are really lucky, and I think it's up to us to kind of look at the natal chart and then go from there. I know for a fact I do not have a gambler's chart. I really don't. My 5th house is like nothing. Okay, I think it's ruled by like Cancer. So the reality is that I personally have won small games of chance only because I've been encouraged through, again, I'm with somebody now who does this. And so I have won, but I don't win very often. I don't have that kind of chart. My chart ruler is Uranus. So yeah, could I win? I would have to probably do some really heavy work and major homework. But what I'm trying to encourage you to do is if you want to do this for yourself, please do your homework. Do your due diligence. The 5th house, the 9th house, the 2nd and the 8th house. It's not like I'm asking you to really look at a lot of astrology here. Now, I do want to throw something in. Okay? And this is something that I do when I'm studying teams, like football teams, to see who's winning the Super Bowl. There are money asteroids. There are 5 of them that I use. Coin, banks, money, Dolero, Payo, and actually I lied. I started using checks too, or check. Doesn't always give me a lot, not compared to coin or Dolero, or banks. Banks is big money, okay? So those are your money asteroids. As an asteroid astrologer, one of the things that I would do, and I'm going to be doing that in just a moment, because again, I don't want to make this video so long. Before I jump into that, because these are not going to show up on the chart. Unfortunately, none of them do. So I have to go look for them. And I will. I'm going to pull them up in a minute. But before I do that, I want you to look at his birth chart. And I'm going to use, ironically, I'm probably going to use the 615. Okay, even though here's the 6. No, this is the 615. And I like the way some of this came out. I really did. I truly did. Especially this right here going in, the Uranus. But it's just not on the right. Here we go again. It's just not on the right one. Sun is ruling Uranus. Uranus is getting ready to change. Again, we're talking about less than 2.5 degrees, which a lot of astrologers would take into account. So even though I'm doing this, and she is like fantastic on this, I am just not that much of a solid traditional. I'm much more open-ended as a modern. So with that said, I think there's a lot more we can do here. I'm just making sure I've gone through all of this just to explain the, when you're dealing with large amounts of money, you have the potential in the birth chart. In other words, nobody's going to win large amounts of money unless it's already in the chart. There's going to be some Saturn configuration or something that is going to make it not so. Okay, but I wrote, it really works with lottery tickets. So you can do this with lottery tickets. You won't win big tickets if it's not in the chart, but you could win. And I think that's really important. Okay. It's really mostly also about having Jupiter in favorable aspects to the rulers of the 2nd or the 8th house. In this particular case, the Jupiter happens to be the first planet in the 2nd house, both charts. And it's also in a position where even though Jupiter is not in aspects, really his is in Aries, this is like major inconjunct stuff, and Virgo, those are inconjuncts. I'm again, it's not conjunct. So I go back and I say, wow, there's so much more. And I think that, she writes this little pamphlet book, but for those of you who have the book and it hasn't been working for you, I can understand why in steroids. Okay, I can understand why. This chart works, and it did work. Okay, either one really, because of the Jupiter configuration. We could have stopped there. I could have known that he was going to win. Now, here's something on a side note, and maybe that's why the chart didn't line up as well. And also, it makes perfect sense about what falls either on the cusp of that ninth house or in the house. And this is one of the reasons why I've been sticking with the 6:30 time rather than the 6:15. Because if you noticed that at the 6:30 time, even though it was right outside of it, was right on the cusp. That's an asteroid of dependencies. It's retrograde. It was my astrology that had him choose which team. That team did not win. Okay? No, he won. He won. This is where I get like crazy. He won because of the spread. So maybe that's why this chart was like this. And maybe that's why I should take just 1 minute to look at what his chart looked like last Sunday. So let's do that. Let's do it. Hold on. Okay, so I put it up, and this is where I really need to work on his chart. But let me show you something, which I thought was interesting. Look at this. He's got Juno there right on the ascendant. Did I not just say that I opened up every single winner? I did. Okay, so this chart, ruled by Uranus. Sun is in Uranus, okay? Fifth house trines the sun. Exactly. Finally, we got one. Okay, so you see that? Look at that, sun. All right, here we are, 17 degrees, 38 minutes. Look at this. That's why I use the 6:30 time. I've been playing with this chart for a while. And again, we could probably tweak it up. It's probably 6:23 or 6:28 or something. And I could still work with that. But look, I just thought this was really amazing. So you have this 17 degree Uranus. Now, Uranus is in the third house. So Uranus isn't helpful. Now, the moon is getting ready to cross from the third into the fourth house, but I like this better. Look at that 17 degrees, exactly trining that sun in the first house, and that is something we're supposed to look for. So I like this one better. We could go with the 8th, but again, it doesn't have anything to do with the ascendant. It doesn't have anything to even do with his Jupiter, although look at how close it's getting to that 9-degree point, and it's getting ready to cross over. But at this point, the Jupiter is running with an ascendant in that first house. But I proved my point. He won money. It wasn't a lot. It's about $150. But there it is, Gemini. The other thing I want to point out is that he does have Gemini right off of the ascendant in this chart. So that's another thing we could mention here besides that Jupiter at 9 degrees of Aries. So I hope that was somewhat helpful. I'm going to jump now, and I want to work with the asteroids just a wee bit and the angles before I end this video, only because I'm somebody who studied diurnals for years and years and years, and it really helped me to learn the asteroids, and it helped me a lot to be able to look at the asteroids and all of astrology on a more subtle level. It's awesome. Here we go. Okay, so I'm actually back utilizing the Super Bowl chart. Okay, so we saw how it worked really well on that Sunday where we were just playing tickets. What I did was I kind of wanted to show you a few things related to these angles. Like, for example, I did all the Doleros, and the reason why I thought this chart would be the most fun to work with is notice that he has a 23, 34, and this is what I mean by the chart could be slightly off. Do you know that he has Peo right on that ascendant? Right on that ascendant at 2217. Yes, it's off by a slight bit, and that's what I'm referring to when I said you might have to juggle a bit. Okay, that actually happened. And remember, I said I keep thinking that I should stick with that 6:30 time, and look what happened there. Okay, so that was the transiting Peo. Okay, and it happened to fall right on that ascendant. Also, very interesting to me, and I'm going to just do this right now. Let's just do this. Okay, was that he had, look at this Apollon sun. That's success. Okay, just in case you wanted to say that. Okay, so he has an Apollon sun on this particular day, and what's really interesting is that he has a lot of Aries point things, like right here, which is the ascendant, which is just below the Aries point. That's where you're going to find Peo, but you're also going to find down here at 15 degrees fixed, you're going to find coin. You're also going to find his, I believe it's his, yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. Okay, so you see how that works. See how many there were. I'm just trying to think if there was even more than that. I'm just going back and make sure I get the right date. Yeah, there was more than that. Okay, so up here, now it's retrograding, but we have money. So we have money, we have Peo, and we have coin. Three asteroids. Now, they're hitting the Aries point, but it's also a part of the Sun Apollon chart. So it's success. If you go to the Sun Apollon midpoint, and if you had during that day some asteroids for money fall there, I would play something. Okay, just to show you that. Okay, now in addition, okay, let me go back. Okay, so you see this 8 Pisces, you see this, I'm going back. Okay, yeah, you know, his sun, I'll tell you roughly, is about 13 degrees of Taurus. Now, what's interesting is check for his natal is at 8 degrees of Taurus. And if you notice, there are 8 and 9 degrees everywhere on this chart, as well as Aries point charts. Okay, there's a lot of Aries points in this chart. So it makes that point even more viable. Okay, now, is it where the houses are? No, but look at the trine, okay, to check. All right. There's a beautiful trine to the 8th house to check. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do, because I think it works, is to grab the money asteroids and utilize them in your chart as well. Because honestly, I checked also Sunday really briefly. He has a lot. And it's interesting because when you throw in some of his natal stuff, it's even better. One of the things I really liked is that he has this Capricorn rising, but he has Peo in Capricorn at basically the same spot. So I thought that was really interesting. Also, to note that on the 6th, when he was gambling, there were, again, several other connections to the Aries point, but it also really highlighted that Peo again. And it also highlighted it was an Aquarius rising, so coin comes into effect more with that chart. So again, if you can go 10 degrees on some of these and only a couple degrees on each of the cusps, you're going to find it does work. But I would encourage you and I would urge you to do some homework first, to get the accuracy of the chart, to do some hindsight studying. Think of when you did win. Go back, look at those charts. What was happening? how close are your degree orbs? Are you right on? So before I let you go, I want to make a note that we have a 23 Capricorn, 34 rising, okay, on this one. And we have a 17 degree, this is really important, Scorpio. And by the way, that midheaven, Scorpio midheaven, just thinking there was something there as well. Actually, no, it was 17 degrees because we have an Aries for banks. We have, which trines not the houses that we want, but it trines, banks does trine, particularly the IC. Okay. One of the things that I would say as an astrologer is look for a lot of hits. One of the things I can tell you about this 13th is there's a lot of hits, like woo, woo, woo. So some of them are trines, and they really do look for trines, look for conjunctions. But I don't rule out other things, to be honest with you. The other thing, if you notice, look at this 8 degrees, and then remember in the other chart, it was more like, hold on, let me go check. So as you can see, this is not a, sorry about that. This is, look at this. Here's another example. Now this is the 6:15 time. I'm only playing with 15 minutes and look what craziness is happening. Okay, so it's, but that is making a aspect, if you will, to a 1922 Pisces Delero. If I were to see why it gets so confusing, I had to show that. I don't know why, but I had to. I am actually going to go into the dial for the 6:30 time next. Okay, so here I am. I'm in the dial, and one of the ways in which you can really learn astrology is to go to the ascendant. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, and start looking at asteroids that might fall. Like we have an Apollonia here. Okay, it's not far away. Over here, yeah, self-destructive. Again, Jupiter self-destructive. Yeah, it's one of those things like. You don't want to be in excess either of money or of alcohol and drink. And ironically, we were, what's that word? Sober that day. We didn't drink anything. But you look at this, okay? And you would go through each of these midpoints. Okay, there's a real highlight on the midheaven, okay? So they were probably talking about something about the future or what they're going to do in the future. One of the things I like to do, though, is go to the exact minute. There it is. And it comes with a trans-Pluto. I think that's trans-Pluto. Where's that? Oh. I should go over here. What was the name of that? Eris. Oh, yeah, that would make more sense. Boy, that really actually describes the betting because I didn't know that he won. The team didn't win, that I thought, but because of the point spread thing, he was a winner. Okay, that always baffled me. Okay, so that means that Saturn and that. So what we're going to do is we go 1 degree, so about 16 degrees. So we got 15, 16 degrees. Oh, sorry, 17 degrees. That would be also noteworthy. Okay, noteworthy. All right, you would want to do that. I would also go back in and look at what asteroids might fall around 15 fixed or 16 fixed. In this case, we know Coin was there. And do you see how close it is to the Aries point? Remember, I made a big deal about the Aries point when it came to those because his ascendant is so close to the Aries point. So hopefully this has been helpful. Okay, so let me come on back. So I'm back, and I want to thank you for watching the video. When I started getting into this, I was kind of amazed, like we don't need to see me twice. I was kind of amazed at how much time I could spend on this. And part of it is because I don't have an exact time on Todd. I'm very close, but I don't. And so for you, as people watching this, just keep in mind your basic astrology, what rules, what planets, and know that your house cusps are really important when you're doing diurnal. But I think that you can wiggle room when it comes to the orbs. That would just be what I'm saying. Okay. I encourage you guys to try this though. I'd love to hear from you. I would love to have more, what's the word I want to look for? I would love to have more people interacting with me. Okay. I know I don't have enough followers to do it, other than by chat or, by just you talking to me, over the internet, at least for now. But I'm a teacher and I'm not as interested in the gambling, but I am so interested in diurnal charts and what they have to tell us. And so I would encourage all of you, particularly people that have questions about the astrology, to send me questions. Okay. Because I can't do live. I don't have a following for that. Not yet anyway. So it would be wonderful if I could have interaction going on with these videos. But anyway, with that said, I want to say thank you for watching the video. Please contact me with questions. Please comment. I love hearing from you. Even people who are more negative. I think that there's always a skepticism that's involved in astrology. And I kind of think that's important, that we remain somewhat skeptical. And we look at things with very critical eyes. So we can learn and grow. So as always, I will leave you until we meet again. I wish you only happy readings.